Hey there, everyone. This is Kaivan Shroff, and you're listening to Extremely Reasonable. I'm excited to have somebody who is running for governor of Texas, Bobby Cole, running as a Democrat, making an interesting, different pitch. Bobby, thank you for joining us. And start off by telling folks a little bit about yourself. What made you want to jump into this governor's race, and what motivates you every day?
Um, Thanks, Kayvon, for the introduction. And yes, I'm just a everyday, ordinary Texan that's concerned about the direction of the state. Um, I was raised by working class parents and grandparents. I've always been working class, and I've struggled my whole life to build a legacy to leave my kids. And I'm running for governor because I've become real concerned about that, and worried about that legacy, and I'm also worried about the legacy, the overarching legacy we've all been left, which is our democracy. And I just think Greg Abbott's done a really good job at trashing this state and trashing our democracy. And so, if we're really gonna concentrate on fixing real problems in this state that help people build a life, he's simply got to go. And so that's what motivates me to get out there every day and keep plugging and trying to connect with people and tell them what the campaign's about, so that we can do just that. Bring Texas a different vision and bring Texas a different
So,
future.
what is the campaign about then?
Well, I mean, it centers around working people and giving them the things they need to be able to build a life. And working people does not really exclude anybody. Anybody in the state, they're workers. And it doesn't matter whether you're urban or suburban or rural. If you're a worker in this state, I don't care who you are or where you live. And we've got basically the same wants and needs as everybody. It's a unifying desire. We want to be able to, find a good job, make good pay so that we can buy a house and we can raise a family and we can pay the bills and give that family, those kids that you have, every opportunity in the world that you had or more. And then at the end of the day, you want to, after you've given your life and your blood, sweat, and tears to build this state and its economy, you want to be able to retire one day with dignity and be able to not be a burden on your kids. And so I think if you can just concentrate on giving people a fair shot at that very dream, it shouldn't be a dream. It should be a reality, and it's not.
And speaking of working people, just in the news, obviously President Trump flipped off a UAW worker yesterday. What do you make of that? Sort of an isolated incident or something that connects to a larger theme?
Um, yeah, it's not very presidential, but we've sort of gotten used to that with this guy. Um, I think it's sort of a theme that runs through him and his administration towards working people in general. They tell you what you want to hear, but yet all their policies, all their decisions, really how they feel about you is that you're just an ends to a means. And what the means are is to enrich themselves. And if you get left behind and continue to be ignored, so what? Here's the bird for you.
hmm And so, I guess pivoting away from why you're running, I'm curious, how are you going to win? So, the primary elections in less than 2 months, you do have lower name recognition than your counterpart who's a Texas state rep. In interviews,
Yep.
I've heard you say that your strategy is that you can win and reach rural voters in Texas. At the same time, obviously, politics is a numbers game. Is that an approach where the math adds up? In the last 2022 cycle, 10 million registered Texas voters stayed home and didn't turn out to vote. So, is that strategy going to bring you over the line in March and then ultimately during the general election?
Well, it's got to bring me over the line, or it's not going to bring any Democrat over the line. And I'll tell you why, is that, like you said, 10 million voters did not vote. Um, whether those voters were urban or rural, or Republican or Democrat, it really didn't matter. They were checked out.
Hmm.
And so if a Democrat's going to win in this state, you can't give up. Over 200 counties in this state are considered rural. And the Democrats pretty much count them out from the start, seed them to Republicans and Greg Abbott in this state. And he wins those counties on margins of 70 to 30%. And when you give up that much right off the bat, I don't care how much you can spike urban and
Hmm.
suburban turnout, it's not going to add up, and it has never added up for over 30 years in a generation for Democrats in this state. And what I'm saying is, like I talked to you about before, I'm building a coalition of workers. And it doesn't, like I said, it does not differentiate about what you look like, what you believe, or where you
Hmm.
live. I'm advocating for you. And but I can go to rural Texas because this is where I was raised, and I have a working class message. And when I go to rural Texas, I don't have to win these counties outright. All I've got to do is shave 10% off Abbott's margins of 70% and move them to my column. That's a 20-point swing. When you add that to strong urban and suburban turnout, you get a Democratic governor of Texas. And I'm the only candidate running in this race that can actually do that. And so I am the underdog in this race, especially this primary here. But if we're going to win the state of Texas, we've got to do something different. We can't keep running the status quo because it hasn't added up to victory.
Yeah, and you do mention that you're, running to represent all working people, and I appreciate that because I think there's often been a conversation where working class has been treated as code for white working class, and maybe some of the
Nope.
more rural
Yeah.
voters you are talking about. Texas is home to the largest black population in the country. So, are you confident that you have a strategy to turn out that demographic in large numbers? And specifically, what's your approach to turning out black voters?
I just think I can identify with black voters because I've struggled and hustled and had to make ends meet just like they have. I've worked for crappy bosses, I've worked for low wages. I understand the struggle to try to get ahead. And whether you're a worker anywhere in this state, but particularly marginalized communities, that story is more common than it should be.
Hmm.
And I can go there and I can tell them that what motivates voters is somebody who's listening to them, not just during when they're running for office, but afterwards. And my commitment to them will be I will be part of your community, and I am here as an advocate for you to help you build a life. And when you do that, you tell them that you care, and then you show them that there is hope. I am the candidate that can build the coalition statewide to actually win this office and use this office to help you. You're going to motivate that community and you're going to get turnout.
I think that makes sense. And you mentioned showing people that you can deliver for them. You are running as a different type of candidate, authentic, real, working class. At the same time, at this point, we've seen a lot of candidates take that tack and sort of run on that model, only to find out that they are leading on a cult of personality. They haven't been vetted. They don't seem to have the leadership skills, even sometimes in their own campaigns. Why should people trust that you have leadership skills to run a state as big as Texas? Obviously, your background, you were a senior firefighter, you run a farm, so very interesting, useful skill set. But how does that map on to leading a state like Texas?
Well, I mean, I guess just a position against the leadership we've been getting. We've got a dysfunctional grid. We've got public
Mhm.
education. Kids are being shortchanged. We got a healthcare system that has hospitals closing across the state that are leaving rural Texans vulnerable, and it's costing jobs and lives. But with that said, I am not a politician. I didn't grow up wanting to be governor. I come from a public service background as a firefighter. And that background, I've been a lieutenant in the fire department, and I have led men and and in emergency situations in the highest stakes to help people in critical situations, whether it's a house fire or a car wreck. And in those high critical situations of leadership, you have to you've got to make critical decisions, split seconds that lives hang in the balance, and you get no do-overs. And I think that's vitally critical to know that when crisis comes, you are able to make decisions and lead. And then with the farm, being a farmer, listen, it's always tough being a farmer. Any farmer will tell you there are no guarantees in it. But you've got to be dependable and you got to persevere. And bankers are depending on you to make your note. You got to make your note so your family keeps the farm and the roof over their head. And then you got to meet payroll. You've got supply chains to deal with. You've got the weather and disease you've got to manage around and for. And I think these things have prepared me to be ready when these situations are called upon. And so, do I think I'm special? Do I think I have a special skill set? No. I have a skill set that a lot of Texans have. And we've been convinced as everyday ordinary Texans that the government to people who lead you in government should be, super qualified or, have big fancy educations from Princeton or Harvard or lawyers. And it's just not true. The government is the people, and the people are you. And if you feel disconnected from your government, it's because you're not sending people who live like you.
Then
And
can I
that's
just
what
ask
that's
though,
what I'm offering the people of Texas. Somebody who knows their struggles and and understands their frustration
is
and can help them start putting the pieces together
mhm.
for them to use to make their life easier for them.
I hear that, but I guess my pushback then is why not just do a random draw and pick who's governor, right? I mean, if you're saying it's just because you're an ordinary person who understands the struggles of others in the state, right? Like, what are you bringing to the table? How are you going to help lead beyond, I understand the hoity-toity education and all those sort of cliche qualifications may not be important, and I tend to agree with that. But what qualifications do matter then?
Well, I mean, like I said, I do come from a public service back background, and I
Hmm.
promise you, if you had a random drawing for people to be the governor of Texas, it wouldn't be like the lottery here, and everybody would say, "Yeah, put that money in my pocket." They would say, "No, I don't want anything to do with it."
Okay,
So,
fair enough. So
um,
you're willing to do the job.
I'm
What?
willing to do the job, and I feel like I have a duty to act. And this is what I'll tell you. I'm going to do the job for what it pays. I'm looking for nothing else.
Hmm.
You've got to send somebody to be governor that you can trust is going to do what they're telling you they're willing to do. And I'm willing to go do the job for what it pays, and I'm not looking for fame or fortune or to line my pockets. And I think that means something. And that's what I offer.
Okay, and I hear your criticisms of Governor Abbott, and I agree with many of them. Obviously, you are running against another Democrat who's already been elected. She's in local office at the state level, and you've claimed that the Democratic establishment is lining up behind their candidate. I guess I'm curious, doesn't that make sense that they would support somebody who's been in office, been a Democrat, been around, sort of proven themselves to some extent over sort of an outsider? Or what's your argument that they should have lined up behind you?
Well, I mean, technically, I'm not casting shade towards the party per se.
Uh-huh.
Um, what I'm saying though is that why keep trying what you've been trying and expect you're going to get something different? And far as I'm concerned, the I'll mention her name, Gina
Yeah.
Hinojosa is the same candidate we've been running in Texas for the last 30 years that cannot break through.
Say more about that for folks.
Huh?
Say more about that for folks. And I just want to let our audience know, right? Texas has not elected a Democrat statewide in 30 years.
In
So
30
tell us
years.
what you think the failed formula has been.
Well, I just think it's I mean, running politicians that and like I said, whether we like it or not, we've got disinterested voters in this
Hmm.
state, 10 million of them, and we Democrats cede rural Texas to Republicans right off the bat. They don't even go out and compete for it.
Hmm.
And I think that's fundamentally where the problem lies. You've got to run a candidate that can go out into rural Texas and can speak to those voters. Like I said, I don't have to win them all, but you got to compete for them. And when you can tell people you can go out there and you can compete, you're gonna vote traditional Democratic voters will become excited and you will spike urban and suburban areas because they'll have hope that we can finally break through in this state.
Hmm.
And that's my criticism of the Democratic Party. I've been here. I've been here since June. I haven't been quiet. I've been going to, county meetings. I've been to forums. I've reached out to Democratic players within the state, and I'm still sitting here waiting for people to come and find me, to hear my message and give me the platform to be able to make a difference in this state and win this race. Because if I can square off against Greg Abbott, I can beat him.
And you're saying that all you need is a 20% increase in performance with rural voters to change the makeup of Texas politics. That doesn't sound like the math adds up. Is it?
Oh yeah, it adds
Yep.
up. I mean, he wins 70 to 30% out here, and he wins by a million votes. When you shave 10% off him and move it to that's 20% swing. So it's a dead heat race at 10%. If I win 11 and 12, I start to run away with it.
Okay. And I guess you are talking about a different type of candidate and what needs to be done to sort of shake things up in Texas politics. Getting a lot of attention is the Senate race in Texas between obviously there's a general that's going to happen, but among Democrats, large debate with Jasmine Crockett recently jumping in. She's running against James Tallarico. Both have a theory of change that reflects some of what you're saying in that they need to build a different coalition. They think they can excite and mobilize new types of voters. Do you have a favorite in that race? Are you endorsing one over the other?
I'm not endorsing one over the other. They have their race to run.
Hmm.
It's I'm pretty much consumed with my
I got you.
race.
I will say that is like the political answer 101, and you are pitching yourself as this like outsider, authentic candidate. So does that sink? I mean, surely you have a thought about who you want running alongside you if you were in a general election trying to turn out the vote.
I think they're both fighters. And I'm not gonna sit here and tell people who they should be voting for. They need to make that decision, and whoever they vote for is going to be hopefully the best chance we've got to break through.
Do you know who
Now,
you're going to vote for?
yes, I know who I'm going to vote for.
And you don't want to say it.
Well, no.
Okay. Um, so what are your news sources and who are your key advisors during this campaign and who would they be if you were elected?
Well, I'm grassroots, and that means I don't have a lot of advisors, uh, paid advisors, or I don't know, they're being paid, but the people I trust. My wife's involved with the campaign. I've got some friends that are involved with the campaign. I've got a lot of neighbors that I talk to that aren't Democrats. They're just real Texans. They tell me what, how politics and the economy is affecting them. I put a lot of weight in that feedback, and I also I mean I try to read a lot and stay current with what's going on in the state with politics and issues, and
Hmm.
you know
Any
just
specific
trying.
outlets or sources that jump out?
Well, I mean, all the leading papers here in the state, in Dallas and San Antonio and Houston, pay, papers, and then you've got a couple of Austin publications I read regularly. And then, I mean, I'm a farmer, so
Hmm.
I read, Progressive Farmer and Farm Journal just to stay up on I have a vested interest in that too. But I try to stay informed. I try to stay open-minded, and I try to
Mhm.
take the information and absorb it and utilize it, internalize it, where it can help me become a better politician and a more informed citizen.
That's great. I guess I think, in some sense, I can imagine Democrats' reaction if Greg Abbott said, my advisors are my friends, my family, and my neighbors, and that's who I would sort of lean on running the state. Is that a wrong-headed sort of reaction to that, or say a little more? I guess like I understand
Well,
being
I mean, when
grassroots
you
and
ask who my advisors
starting,
are
but
right now,
who would they be?
yeah, right now, those are my
Hmm.
advisors on sort of. I mean, my advisors go all the way back to my grandparents and my parents because they installed my values and my principles and my character. But
Kitchen cabinet, I love that. But I
yeah,
guess like for leading the state.
no, I know what you're saying. If I'm fortunate enough to win governor, I realize that I've got to have experts in different sectors of the economy, different sectors of healthcare and education, and people have to trust me. I don't want to sound like Trump here, but I know all the best people. I don't know all the best people, but I'm here to tell you, I have the capability and the common sense to go out and find the people that can help the
Hmm.
people I want to help in this state, which is the working people who drive this state, fuel this state, and have built the economy and want nothing but a fair shot for them and their family. And I mean, that's what the job's about. And just like swinging a hammer, driving nails, and sawing boards to build a house, when you get into government, you've got to find those people that can build stuff. And that's what I'll do. I don't want to be tearing stuff down. I want to build stuff.
I think that's a great answer, and I'd like to see more Democrats talk about what they want to build and invest in. I'm curious. Obviously, one of the biggest pieces of news every day in the country is about Trump's handling of immigration, and obviously, as a farmer, maybe you have a unique perspective on how that impacts your business and farmers across the country. What is your stance on immigration policy, and what would you do as governor if the Trump administration wanted to continue their approach to immigration enforcement as they're doing it now?
Our immigration policy is in chaos and it's wrong headed, especially for the state of Texas, for our nation. Should we have a strong border and know who's coming into the country? I absolutely agree with that. But if Texas is the seventh biggest economy in the world, second biggest in the nation, it will not remain that if we don't have a comprehensive immigration policy. And now I know that's sort of set nationally, but as governor of the second biggest economy in the nation, you can have a big say on national politics. And I advocate for a pathway to citizenship. We got to get there. Ask, I mean, if you do your research, Elon Musk, uh, Jeff Bezos, Bill Gates, a lot of the big, CEOs of these Fortune 500 companies know this to be true. The average couple in the United States is having 1.8 kids. That's stagnant population growth.
Hmm.
This economy and this the NASDAQ and our stock market will not continue to grow. Our economy will not continue to grow without population growth and workers to do the work. Immigration is vitally important to this, and it is short-sighted to be anti-immigration in this country in this state. And you need somebody that is not to be governor of this state that's not looking for short-term political gains by villainizing pe people for votes, but somebody who wants to look to the future of this state long term and build it because it's better for all of us to be in a state that has a economic future that's full of opportunity. And immigration has to be figured out, and it's got to be done right. And immigrants who come to this country keep their nose clean, contribute and spend their life helping build this state should be given an opportunity to be part of it. And that's my position.
Thank you for that. And last question for you. I'm sure it was a new experience running for office. And I'm curious, I think, one of the solutions surely to the problems our country faces is more ordinary folks stepping up to the plate, bringing their unique perspective and experience, and trying to run for local office and maybe even national office one day. What's your advice? What's the biggest lesson you've learned? What would you tell folks that are thinking about it?
The biggest lesson I've learned, it is not easy. It's a tough road to hoe. But if you're called to do it and you feel like it's something you have a passion for, absolutely jump in because it is a rewarding experience. You get to meet a lot of people, you get to go out and hear different perspectives about life and sort of what, their experiences are, and you meet a lot of great people along the way. In my case, that will be friends after all this is done. And so it's been a rewarding experience, win or lose. Um, the other thing I would say is if you've never run for office, don't let that be a set obstacle for you. And this is why I say that. Everywhere I go, I hear the same message. It doesn't seem my government hears me, understands my struggles. And what I'm saying is stop sending generational politicians, retired CEOs, educational elites to represent you and think you're going to get something different. Start sending people who help people and build things like waitresses and nurses and doctors, and then people that build things like, farmers or carpenters or plumbers. And when you do that, your government will change and your government will look more like you and respond more to what you need to be able to build a life.
Awesome. Well, Bobby Cole, thank you for your time and good luck.
Okay. Thank you, Kayvon.